I dug out my Power of the Force Rancor, and so I wanted to make a little Rancor pit for him. When I say little, I mean there's my hand for size comparison, and here's an amiibo. I don't have any actual Star Wars guys to hand, but all I've done... Oh, actually, yes I do. There's the speeder bike scout. So I've just taken a cardboard box. All I've done is, with the little craft knife, I've cut one side of the box out. I've left a little flap in the bottom. Not flap, little ridge. And because the box has got these flaps and a dip down part in here, all I did was I measured that out. And I cut this from one of the remaining bits of cardboard. And I can slot that in there, and it fits perfectly. Now, you can see that there's still a little bit of... they're not quite flush, so I'm just going to glue them in with some craft glue and stick a big book right in the middle there to hold them down. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the little door where Luke, he's trying to bang on the door to get out of the Rancor pit, and then the door goes whoosh and comes open, and there's just a little cage area in there, and all the guards laugh at him. So what I've got for that is I saw this, and I thought that actually works just for the little cage segment and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace onto the back wall here where that's going to go, and then cut it out so that you can see there's a little ridge on the bottom here. That's about the same height as, you can't really tell, the actual interior cardboard base, so hopefully it'll stand pretty much flush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, put it up where I want it, and then trace it onto the wall and cut that area of the wall out. So here's the finished door cut out, and you can see around the back here, it didn't quite line up with the box, even though I traced it, because the box sits just a bit too low off the ground compared to the ground in here. So I just took one of my extra bits of cardboard, which I cut out of the actual door shape, and because this plastic box it was just a bit slanted up on one side, I took a bit of paper, folded it over, glued it, stuck it under there, and now it balances and it's all correct. So what I'm going to do now is add a bit of detailing. So I'm just going to take one of my off-cut bits of cardboard and just stick it right around there, so that there's like a little ridge just for detailing, and then I'm going to do some painting. So I've just used the same craft glue, and when I cut the cardboard, it twisted up, because I just was lazy and used scissors. I didn't use the X-Acto blade, so it twisted up on one side. So I've got underneath that over there, I'm flattening out the longer piece of cardboard, but over here I've glued the shorter bit onto the shorter side, and I'm just using this book to press it down in place to make it hold. And you can see the little tiny bit from here to there on the wall, so I've just got one little tiny bit that I'm going to glue on there when this is set. While I was waiting for the glue to dry, I decided that this little thing sticking out the side looked a bit bare, so all I did was, there's the little base, I cut it to fit, put the thing in, measured up a bit of scrap cardboard, cut it to fit as well, cut a door out with the craft knife, and you can see I've just literally just used some sticky tape and taped it all together, put a bit across the top there for support, so when it goes back into that little door slot, when you look through, you'll be able to see the little arched portcullis through there, and there'll just be a bit of definition on the insides of the box. It won't just look like a transparent cube that's just connected into the side. The glue is now all dried, and you can see it's got that ridge running around the top there. There's the little door. Here's a figure for size comparison, and you can see around the back there where I've strengthened that up. Now I'm just going to take the whole thing and I'm going to do a little bit of paint on it, and then it's ready for some figures. Here it is after painting. I've just done lots of black spray paint in just really light misting layers across, trying to get it darker as it goes into the corner. The light's not great because out the window you can see the sun's coming in through the foliage, so it's kind of making a pattern on there. And I've done the door in green as well. Again, that doesn't actually... That looks like it stands out a lot more on the camera than it actually does just in person, so hopefully when I show you the finished diorama, that'll look a bit more like it does in real life. That's actually much darker green, and that's just in its little box there, and I'm going to tape up the corners here just with some regular packing tape to attach this onto here, so I can pick the whole thing up and move it around. I can still just pull it back to get that out if I need to use that in something else. So it's all safely taped in now, and I even attached just a little offcut of cardboard that I drew on with a Sharpie for the little door controls that Luke's bashing on. So now what I'm going to do, before it's ready to put some figures in there, is I just went outside and grabbed some gravel. The nice thing about rocks is that they're just, they're free. They're literally just on the ground for free. Anyone can you can take as many rocks as you like. But do be careful if you put them in a styrofoam cup on your table, that if you're also eating some snacks, you don't just idly try and grab one and go to put it in your mouth and only realise at the last second. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scatter some of these in here, and kind of build the area around in the corners a bit with some rocks. I did consider trying to put like a big portcullis across there to fall down on the Rancor, but the Rancor compared to the size of this box, because I cut the box to size, or I chose the box for its size because it would fit in the display area I had available, so the Rancor almost entirely fills it, so there's not going to be space for that. But, maybe I'll add to it in the future, who knows. And here is the finished display in my little cabinet. So you can see I've got my Princess Leia diorama over there that I did, and down underneath is the, good boy Pico, is the Kylo Ren interrogation, and just up above, the Rancor pit. So you can see what I mean. If I come down to the height, there's no space for portcullis. There's the rocks over there in the background, and a couple other rocks in the corner over there. Here's the Power of the Force Luke, who, honestly, of all the different Power of the Force figures, they did millions of Luke, and I think he's probably the best. The head sculpt is, it's not brilliant, obviously, but it's Power of the Force, and from some angles, yeah, it kind of does look like Mark Hamill. And also they managed to do away with the Lufarino type Luke that they seem to keep giving him in his body shape here. So he's kind of a bit more normally proportioned, like a human being. And I do have the plastic bone that comes with the Rancor set, but I don't know where it was. I couldn't find it, so I just used that stick that kind of looks correct. So there's the Rancor in all of his glory, and down in there, if you look real close, is the Rancor tamer, just sticking his head through, leaning on the door, because he's worried about his friend. That scene, I always hated that in the film, that we saw the Rancor keeper crying over the Rancor, and because as a kid, I just sort of, I loved the Rancor, this was the right size for me to just carry it around like a baby, and, I hated that the Rancor had to be killed. I mean, I understood it in the story, but it's just, it didn't do those things to be evil, it was just an innocent animal. It's like, in, was it Scarface, where he fed people to tigers? I don't know. I've only seen that film once, a long time ago. But, it's not the tiger's fault. Poor Rancor, he wasn't intentionally being horrible. So, there's been a lot of Rancor figures over the years. Well, I say a lot of, like, half a dozen, and I still kind of think this one's the best one. They did a recent one with the Saga line, or Legacy line, and, I thought, oh cool, new Rancor, and it's got, good articulation, as much as you kind of, want from the Rancor, but pretty much, the sculpt was sort of off. It was kind of cartoony, and that's cool if you're into that, I suppose. I don't mind some of the like Clone Wars and Rebels stuff. That's just because I love Rebels so much. But you know, for the Rancor, I don't know. It didn't seem to fit, and they did one, but they made him look too kind of streamlined and aggressive, whereas in the film he looks kind of like this. I mean, he just looks like this in the film, and I think that they got the paint absolutely spot on. I just think they nailed the look with this one. I mean, like if they re-released this today, I think it would hold up just fine. Anyway, so that's my Rancor pit diorama. I'll see if I can drop down and get an impressive angle of the Rancor there. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this incredibly simple build. It took me about maybe an hour, 90 minutes, excluding paint drying time. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and there it is one last time. The Rancor pit.